This transformation is not just intellectual, but deeply experiential. It shifts how we relate to ourselves, others, and the world. We become more accepting, compassionate, and in tune with reality, seeing things as they are, rather than through the filter of conditioned thinking. In a state of true freedom, where conditioned beliefs no longer dominate, there is no inner conflict. Without the pressure to conform to preconceived ideas, we are free to live authentically, following our inner wisdom. This leads to a life of greater harmony, both within and in our relationships with others. Decisions become simpler because they arise from a place of clarity and intuition, not from fear or external expectations. Breaking away from conditioned beliefs is the key to internal transformation. It allows us to move beyond mental conflicts and experience a deeper level of freedom, one where the mind is clear, peaceful, and unburdened by the past. This process opens the door to living a life of authenticity, joy, and inner harmony, a state of true freedom. In a world where we are constantly shaped by societal expectations, traditions, and personal beliefs, the idea of liberation can feel like a distant dream. Our minds, often conditioned by years of routines and external pressures, struggle to break free from these invisible chains. But through the power of visuals and music, we can evoke a sense of freedom that goes beyond words, one that reveals the contrast between a life lived under the burden of conditioning and one that is truly free. Imagine a scene where a person walks through a crowded, chaotic city, surrounded by towering buildings that seem to close in with each step. The environment is gray, the pace fast, and the air heavy. This visual represents a life under the burden of conditioning, one filled with noise, expectations, and a sense of confinement. In this world, people move like cogs in a machine, unaware that their every action, every thought, is driven by invisible forces. In contrast, envision a different scene, a person standing at the edge of a vast, open field. The sky is endless, painted with vibrant colors of a setting sun. There is no rush, no urgency, just the feeling of infinite space and possibility. Here, the air is light, the silence soothing, and each breath feels intentional. This scene symbolizes a life free from conditioning, where one is not bound by societal roles or limiting beliefs. The contrast is striking, and it speaks to the heart without needing explanation. Music has a unique ability to stir emotions and shift moods. To evoke a sense of liberation, music can be used to illustrate the stark difference between a life of confinement and one of freedom. Start with a low, repetitive rhythm, something that mirrors the monotony of daily routines. The music is predictable, almost mechanical, with no room for variation or surprise. This represents the conditioned mind, trapped in cycles of thought, unable to break free from its self-imposed limitations. As the visuals shift from the confined cityscape to the open field, the music should change as well. Introduce uplifting melodies, light notes that dance freely without structure. The music becomes expansive, unpredictable, and full of life, much like the feeling of true liberation. It is no longer bound by rules or patterns, it simply flows. The contrast between the two musical styles highlights the transformation from a life of confinement to one of freedom, illustrating how it feels to break free from conditioning. Both visuals and music work on a sensory level, bypassing the intellect and speaking directly to the emotions. Words can describe liberation, but to truly feel it, one must experience it through the senses. The shift from dark, narrow environments to open, bright spaces, combined with the movement from rigid, repetitive sounds to free-flowing melodies, creates an emotional journey that words alone cannot capture. In the same way that a person can see and hear the difference between a life lived under conditioning and one free from it, they begin to understand that true liberation isn't just a concept, it's an experience. It's a shift in how we see, hear, and feel the world around us. Through the power of visuals and music, we can evoke a sense of liberation that transcends intellectual understanding. By contrasting the heavy, confined feeling of a conditioned life with the light, expansive nature of true freedom, we offer a glimpse of what is possible. This journey from confinement to liberation is not just about breaking free from external expectations, it's about freeing the mind from the limitations it places on itself. Ultimately, the visuals of wide-open spaces and the uplifting melodies of unbounded music remind us that freedom is within our reach. It begins with recognizing the chains of conditioning and having the courage to let them go. In our journey through life, we often find ourselves bound by invisible forces of conditioning that shape our thoughts, actions, and even our perceptions of the world. These forces are deeply ingrained, coming from society, family, and personal experiences, leaving many of us unaware of how much they influence our lives. However, true freedom lies in recognizing and breaking free from these constraints. By understanding the role of conditioning, overcoming fear, and embracing the present, we can finally achieve the liberation we seek. Conditioning is the process by which our minds are molded by external influences, shaping our behaviors, beliefs, and expectations. From an early age, we are taught how to behave, what to think, and what goals to strive for. Society places us into categories, pushing us to conform to standards that may not align with our true selves. Over time, we become conditioned to follow routines, chase success, and live according to other people's definitions of happiness, but this conditioning traps us in patterns of thought and behavior, preventing us from exploring our authentic desires. It limits our ability to think freely, to be spontaneous, and to live in alignment with our inner values. The first step toward achieving true freedom is to become aware of this conditioning and challenge it. A significant part of breaking free from conditioning involves facing fear of the unknown, fear of failure, and fear of rejection. These fears keep us rooted in our comfort zones, making it difficult to step outside the boundaries we've been taught to live within. Fear is often a byproduct of conditioning, as we are programmed to avoid risks and stick to what feels safe. To overcome fear, we must confront it head-on. This requires a shift in perspective, seeing fear not as a barrier, but as an opportunity for growth. When we stop running from fear and instead face it with courage, we open ourselves to new possibilities. We begin to realize that many of the fears we hold are illusions, created by the conditioned mind to keep us in a state of control. One of the most powerful tools for breaking free from conditioning and fear is learning to live in the present moment. Often, we find ourselves caught between dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. Our minds constantly project into what has been or what could be, preventing us from fully experiencing the now. Living in the present means letting go of these mental distractions and focusing on what is happening in the current moment. It involves observing our thoughts without judgment and being fully aware of our surroundings. When we are present, we are not influenced by past conditioning or future anxieties. Instead, we are free to engage with life as it unfolds, in its purest form. True freedom comes when we combine these elements: awareness of conditioning, overcoming fear, and living in the present. It is the state of being where we are no longer bound by the limitations imposed by society, past experiences, or internal fears. Instead, we are free to live authentically, driven by our own sense of purpose and inner peace. Freedom is not the absence of challenges, but the ability to navigate life without being controlled by external forces or internal doubts. It is the power to make choices based on what feels right for us, rather than what we've been conditioned to believe is right. In summary, the path to true freedom involves recognizing the influence of conditioning, overcoming the fears that keep us trapped, and learning to live fully in the present moment. By embracing these principles, we can break free from the limitations that hold us back and step into a life of authenticity and inner peace. True freedom is not something to be found outside of us, it is a state of mind that we can cultivate within. The journey may not be easy, but it is one worth taking, for on the other side lies a life of limitless possibilities. In a world filled with constant information, societal expectations, and inherited beliefs, it's easy to go through life without questioning the thoughts that shape our reality. We often take our beliefs for granted, accepting them as absolute truths without examining where they come from or whether they serve our best interests. But true internal freedom begins with this very process, questioning the thoughts and beliefs that govern our lives. From a young age, we are influenced by family, culture, religion, and society. These influences shape the way we think about ourselves, others, and the world around us. Over time, we internalize these ideas, forming a belief system that we navigate life with. While some beliefs may serve us well, many of them can limit our potential, creating barriers that prevent us from living fully. Questioning your thoughts and beliefs is not about rejecting everything you've been taught, it's about gaining clarity on what is true for you. Are you living according to your own values, or are you following the script laid out by others? Are your beliefs empowering you, or are they holding you back? By examining these questions, you open the door to a deeper understanding of yourself. Many of the beliefs we hold are the result of conditioning, not conscious choice. We're conditioned to think a certain way, behave in certain ways, and even aspire to certain life goals. These patterns are deeply ingrained, often to the point where we mistake them for our own desires. But when we pause and take a closer look, we might find that many of our beliefs no longer serve us, or worse, they were never truly ours to begin with. When you begin questioning your conditioning, you start to see how it impacts your decisions, relationships, and overall sense of freedom. You become aware of how much external influences have shaped your internal world. This realization is the first step toward reclaiming your personal power and embarking on your journey to internal freedom. The process of questioning your thoughts and beliefs requires patience and curiosity. Here are a few ways to begin. As you question your beliefs and examine your thoughts, you begin to let go of what no longer serves you. This process leads to a sense of internal freedom, a state where you are no longer confined by the limitations of conditioned thinking. Instead, you live in alignment with your true self, making choices based on what feels right for you, not what you've been told to believe. Internal freedom doesn't mean escaping from responsibility or cutting ties with the world. It means freeing yourself from the mental patterns that create unnecessary suffering and limitations. It's about becoming more conscious of your thoughts and beliefs, and choosing to live from a place of awareness and authenticity. If you're already on this path of questioning and self-discovery, consider how you can encourage others to embark on their own journey. You don't need to convince anyone to think like you, but by sharing your experiences and inviting others to question their own beliefs, you can inspire deeper reflection in those around you. True freedom is not something that can be given or taken away by external forces, it's something that arises from within. It's the ability to live in harmony with your inner values, unburdened by the constraints of societal conditioning or limiting beliefs. When you encourage others to question their thoughts, you're offering them the opportunity to step into this freedom for themselves. The journey to internal freedom is an ongoing process of self-inquiry, mindfulness, and courage. It's about being willing to question the beliefs that have shaped your life and making the conscious choice to let go of those that no longer serve you. By doing so, you unlock the potential to live a life of authenticity and inner peace. So, I encourage you to take the time to reflect on your thoughts and beliefs. Ask yourself the difficult questions, and be open to whatever answers arise. In doing so, you may just discover that the freedom you've been searching for has been within you all along. Freedom is often seen as an external state, something to be achieved once we've met certain conditions or escaped specific constraints. But true freedom is not about changing our external circumstances, it's about changing the way we perceive and understand ourselves. It's an internal state of being, one that arises when we break free from the limitations of conditioned thought, societal expectations, and self-imposed fears. Freedom begins within. We are all born into a world filled with beliefs, traditions, and norms that shape our thinking from the moment we take our first breath. These influences, while necessary to help us navigate society, can also confine us. They create mental patterns that trap us in cycles of fear, doubt, and limitation, making it difficult to live authentically. But what if freedom was not something granted to us by external forces, but something we realize internally? What if the key to breaking free from the prison of our own minds lies in understanding that we have the power to question, challenge, and change the thoughts that confine us, realizing inner freedom? To experience true freedom, we must embark on a journey of self-inquiry. This involves questioning our thoughts, beliefs, and conditioned behaviors. Are we living in alignment with our deepest values, or are we simply following the scripts handed to us by society? Are our actions driven by fear, or are they a reflection of our true desires? This kind of questioning requires courage. It asks us to step into discomfort, to embrace uncertainty, and to face the fears that keep us bound. Yet, in doing so, we begin to understand that freedom is not something distant or unattainable. It is already within us, waiting to be realized. The power of presence. A crucial part of this journey is learning to live in the present moment. Our minds are often caught up in the past or the future, creating a sense of inner turmoil and restlessness. By becoming aware of our thoughts and practicing mindfulness, we can break free from these mental distractions and connect with the here and now. Living in the present moment allows us to experience life without the filters of fear or conditioning. It gives us the space to make choices based on our true desires, rather than acting out of habit or expectation. In this state of presence, we find a deeper sense of inner freedom, one that is not dependent on external circumstances, but on our ability to fully engage with life as it unfolds. A final thought: freedom is within you. As you continue on your journey of self-discovery, remember that freedom is not something anyone can give you. It is not granted by society, nor can it be taken away by external forces. True freedom is something you must realize within yourself. It is an inner state of being that arises when you let go of fear, question your conditioning, and live authentically in the present moment. To leave you with a powerful reminder, I'll end with a quote from Jiddu Krishnamurti, a philosopher whose teachings deeply resonate with the quest for inner freedom. Freedom is not something that is to be acquired, it is the very essence of your being. It is who you are. It is only the mind that is tied up with its own creation of ideas, beliefs, and systems that must free itself. This quote encapsulates the essence of true freedom. It is not something to chase after but something to awaken to within ourselves. As you reflect on this, may it inspire you to continue the journey toward your own liberation, knowing that the key to freedom has always been within you. Title: Reflecting on the Path to Inner Freedom. Questions to ponder. As we explore the concept of true freedom, freedom from conditioning, fear, and the mental patterns that hold us back, it's important to consider how these ideas apply to our own lives. The journey to inner freedom is deeply personal, requiring reflection and self-inquiry. To help guide you on this path, I've posed a few reflective questions for you to consider. Take your time with these questions, allowing yourself the space to explore your thoughts and beliefs in an honest and open way. 1. What beliefs or thoughts have shaped your view of the world? We all inherit beliefs from our families, cultures, and societies. Some of these beliefs may serve us, while others may limit our potential. Reflect on the beliefs that have shaped your view of the world. Are they truly your own? Do they align with your deepest values, or have they been imposed by external forces? Ask yourself, where did this belief come from? Does this belief bring me peace, or does it cause inner conflict? Is it time to let go of this belief and adopt a new perspective? 2. How often do you live in the present moment? Many of us spend much of our time dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. This constant mental activity prevents us from fully engaging with the present moment, the only moment where life truly unfolds. By becoming more mindful and present, we open ourselves to new possibilities for growth and freedom. Ask yourself, how often do I find myself caught up in thoughts about the past or future? What can I do to bring more awareness to the present moment in my daily life? How would my life change if I were fully present in each moment? 3. What fears are holding you back from true freedom? Fear is one of the greatest obstacles to inner freedom. It keeps us trapped in cycles of avoidance, preventing us from taking risks or pursuing our true desires. Understanding the roots of your fears is the first step toward overcoming them. Ask yourself, what are my deepest fears, and how do they influence my decisions? Are these fears based on reality, or are they the result of past conditioning? What steps can I take to face and overcome these fears in a meaningful way? 4. How much of your life is shaped by societal expectations? Society has a way of dictating how we should live, what we should achieve, how we should behave, and who we should become. But often, these expectations don't align with our authentic selves. Living by societal standards can lead to a life that feels disconnected or unfulfilled. ask yourself, in what areas of my life am I conforming to societal expectations rather than following my own path? What would my life look like if I let go of these external pressures and embraced my true desires? Am I willing to take the risk of being different, if it means living a more authentic life? 5. Are your relationships based on dependency or genuine connection? Our relationships can be both a source of joy and a source of suffering, especially when they are rooted in dependency or attachment. When we rely on others to fulfill our emotional needs, we lose sight of the freedom that comes from being whole within ourselves. Ask yourself, are my relationships driven by a need for validation, security, or attachment? How can I cultivate relationships that are based on mutual respect, independence, and genuine connection? What changes can I make to foster more freedom and authenticity in my relationships? 6. How would your life change if you embraced inner freedom? Finally, imagine what your life would look like if you were truly free. Free from the limitations of conditioning, the grip of fear, and the weight of societal expectations. This vision of freedom is not something distant or unattainable, it's something you can cultivate within yourself. Starting today, ask yourself, what would I do differently if I felt truly free? What inner changes must I make to live a life of freedom and authenticity? Am I willing to let go of my old patterns and embrace the unknown in pursuit of a freer, more fulfilling life? Conclusion: your personal journey to freedom. These questions are not meant to provide definitive answers but rather to open a doorway into deeper self-reflection. True freedom is a journey, one that requires ongoing curiosity, awareness, and courage. By asking yourself these questions and exploring the answers that arise, you take the first step toward realizing the freedom that already exists within you. Remember, as Krishnamurti so wisely put it, freedom is not a reaction, freedom is not a choice. It is man's pretense that because he has choice, he is free. Freedom is pure observation without direction, without fear of punishment and reward. Freedom is without motive. Freedom is not at the end of the evolution of man, but lies in the first step of his existence. Let this reflection inspire you to embrace the journey toward true inner freedom, knowing that the power to live authentically lies within you. We all long for freedom, not just the kind defined by external circumstances, but a deeper, more profound sense of inner freedom. This freedom is the release from the thoughts, fears, and conditioned behaviors that keep us bound, preventing us from living fully and authentically. The journey to inner liberation is available to each of us, but it requires the courage to question what we know and step boldly into the unknown. Questioning the known, from a young age, we are taught how the world works, what is expected of us, and how we should think, feel, and act. These lessons shape our reality, and before long, they become the unquestioned truths by which we live. But are these truths really our own? Or are they the result of society's conditioning? Freedom begins with the willingness to question everything we think we know. It means examining our beliefs, not with the goal of rejecting them outright, but with the intent of discovering what is true for us at the deepest level. Are we living according to our own values, or are we simply following the path laid out for us by others? Stepping into the unknown, the path to freedom is not always comfortable. It involves stepping away from the familiar, the routines, beliefs, and roles that have defined us. It requires us to confront the fear of uncertainty and trust that beyond the boundaries of the known lies a life of greater fulfillment and authenticity. Stepping into the unknown can be daunting. There will be moments of doubt, and the temptation to retreat into the safety of old patterns will be strong. But it is in this unknown space that true growth and transformation occur. It is here that we discover who we really are, free from the constraints of the past. A note of hope: the path is open to all, no matter where you are in life. The path to freedom is open to you. It is not reserved for the few or the privileged. It is a journey available to all who are willing to look within, to question, and to evolve. The beauty of this path is that it doesn't require any special knowledge or external achievement, only a sincere desire to understand yourself and a commitment to live in alignment with your truth. The first step toward freedom is often the hardest, but it is also the most powerful. With each step forward, the weight of conditioned thinking begins to lift, and you start to experience life with fresh eyes and an open heart. Every moment becomes an opportunity to live more freely, more joyfully, and more fully in the present. Conclusion: freedom awaits. As you embark on this journey of self-inquiry and liberation, know that you are not alone. Many have walked this path before you, and many more will follow. The courage to question the known and step into the unknown is the beginning of a life lived in true freedom. In the words of Jiddu Krishnamurti, to find out what is true, you must be free of conditioning. You must be free of all the things that man has accumulated in his search for security and comfort.